Hi everyone. Today we are going to see what is this issue of US debt ceiling all about? What is the news going on which is going all around? What is the impact which is going to happen not just on the US economy but also on the world economy as such? So first let us see why this debt ceiling, what is the issue, why it has come up at first. So the question is why debt? Here the government is spending more than its revenue. US government, just like even any other company, has its expenses as well as its revenue. So here the government has its spending more than the earning, the revenue which it is getting. So that is the reason it is taking debts to meet its expenses. So debt it can take it from other countries, maybe through giving out bonds or any other means, which we'll look at the later stage. So why debt? Basically the expenses has become more than the revenue. Where the expenses are going, normally the expenses are into like military funding, social security schemes, repaying the debts which is already taken, unemployment benefits, anything. So government can spend on the different scheme which it has, and it has to make good of whatever the revenue it is there. When it doesn't have enough revenue, so it has no other option than to take money from other countries or other international bodies and take care of all these expenses. So in this case, US is going through the same thing. It doesn't have enough revenue and it is borrowing from other different sources to meet to take care of these expenses. And how much it is the debt which it can take, that is right now it is 31.4 trillion is the debt ceiling which the US government has. That is the maximum which it can take to take care of its expenses. This normally is decided by the Congress, that is the house. Just like in India we have the parliament, they have the Congress house, so where it gets decided, and this limit has been set in 2021 to 31.4 trillion dollars, and this has already been reached. And why is the news right now when it was already reached in January? Why it is being discussed in May? The reason is, although it had reached the limit on January itself, the debt repayment which is going to get due in June first week, there are high chances that US is going to default on that debt repayment, and that is going to have a catastrophic effect on the economy, not just the US economy but the whole economy as such. Why this debt ceiling has been reached? This is because, as I told you earlier, US is running on a deficit that is close to $1 trillion every year since 2001. Since 2001, the government has never been able to generate revenue more than the expenses, and it has been running in deficit from 2001, and it has caused US government to run into such a debt ceiling. And let us see. So here we can see that every year the debts has been rising, and nearly every year they are increasing their debt ceiling limit, and it has been going on from like much before 1995 also it has been going on, but right now after 2001 you can see how steadily the debt has increased, and the debt ceiling has been kept on increasing to meet the debt requirement. Now let us see from where the US has taken debts to take care of these expenses. So you can see from different countries also it has taken debt, mainly from Japan, China. Other countries are also there, but their contribution is very less compared what the contribution comes from China and Japan and other institutions also. You can see that is a US own institution. How it has happened? It is just mainly they raise the debt through bonds, because of which their own institutions they take the bonds, and through which the funding is happening for the debt. So this is slightly old data, but this gives an overall picture like how much the debt is there with the other countries and also with the US own institutions. And normally like in India, like even if you say like a housing loan or a car loan, what happens if you default on a debt? The banks will come and recover, they will auction it off, and they are going to recover the debt. Like that is how normally it functions. So here in case of this US debt default, at least they can take some time from China, Japan or some other countries. They may say, okay, it's not a problem, you can pay back the debt. After some time, then maybe they are going to add up the interest, like the renegotiation may go on. So now we'll see how the debt is actually raised by US. Before going into the impact, let us see how it happens. So normally what happens is they raise the debt through bonds. like they are going to issue a bond. So here you can see just an example. I've taken a 1 lakh bond which is issued by the Treasury, because they are like just in India we have RBI, they have the Treasury department which issues the bonds through which they raise the debt. So what will happen, the Treasury department is going to issue a bond, like one people, just for example I have taken one people, there will be a group of people or institution, they are going to buy these bonds for 1 lakh US dollars, and every year the Treasury is going to pay them the coupon rate, let's say 5%. Every year it is going, they are going to make the payment to the bondholder, and the end of the tenure, if they have issued for the tenure of 10 years, at the end of 10 years the people who had bought the bond, they are going to get their money back. So this way the Treasury department has borrowed 1 lakh and it is going to pay back the 1 lakh US dollars at the end of 10 years. So this is how generally the uh, borrowing takes place through bonds. So here, as we have seen how the bond market bond works, so if in case the default happens, the major impact is going to be on the bond market. So let us see how much is the bond market, how big is the bond market, and what is the share held by US itself in the bond market in raising the funds. So first thing which is going to happen, if it is in case of default, that would be it is going to hit the bond market very hard and it is going to crash. Not just the bond market, it will have a ripple effect on the equity market as well, and markets across the globe. All the different countries are going to crash because US is the leading economy. It is the economy which is looked after by the other emerging economies. So that will have a very bad effect and markets are going to crash across the world, and dollar is also going to take a bad hit and it can be devalued also. So here we can see how the bond market, what is the composition of the bond market, like close to around 51.3 trillion dollars is the size of US bond market. You can see how much big it is, that is close to 39% of the total bond market is from the US itself. Next is China, which is very lower, it is at 16%, and Japan at 8%. So you can see how much, nearly close to, at least not, if not 50%, it is close to 40% of the total bond market is going to take a major hit if in case US defaults on its debt repayment, because the debt repayment mainly comes from the interest payments for the bonds are going to lose its value, they are going to get downgraded, and because of this the bond market will take a hit and it will cause a ripple effect and it will come down all the economies, China, Japan, India, US, UK, all the economies are going to take a hit. Along with this, one more thing which is going to happen is dollar will take a hit and that will be a major disaster. We'll look into it a little later. So here you have seen how the bond market functions and what is the share of US market, what is the share of US in terms of the bond market. So this issue of bonds for raising funds is not just used by the governments, it's also used by different companies also. Like in India we have different companies, say Reliance, Adani, SBI, HDFC. So you can see that all these companies raise the bonds, raise the capital through bonds. So you can see how much of an impact it is going to have on the economy, not just US, even on the Indian economy. The bond market, if it falls, these big companies, these big banks will find it difficult to raise the funds, and that will have a ripple effect on the economy. If these banks or companies are not going to have enough capital, they are not going to expand, they are not going to give many loans, the loans will become difficult, companies will not expand, so new job creation will get affected. So this will come down to each individual common man also. So you can see how a US default can even affect a common man in a way which is difficult to understand also. So now we have seen what is happening in case US defaults. Not just the bond market, the forex will also get affected. Why? The dollar is getting devalued, the bond has been downgraded, dollar is losing the significance, dollar is going to lose its purchasing power. Let's say, and hypothetically, $1 you were able to purchase around say 5 bottles of Coke. After this, with $1 you may be able to get 2 bottles of Coke. So the value, purchasing power of dollar is going to come down, and this is going to have a major impact on the economy. Why? Because most of the countries across the world hold their forex reserves majorly in terms of dollars and gold. So here if you see, close to 59% of the world economy, they are holding their forex reserves in terms of dollars. So you can understand what the impact will be if dollar gets devalued. All the countries which are holding dollars as their forex reserves will face difficulty in paying their external debts or external payments which they have to make. Let's say for example India, if it is having making the payment in dollars, not just for oil, maybe other purchases, so it will find difficult in making those payments, because right now they have to give out more dollar in order to make the payments. So this will become very difficult for other small economies to sustain, because they will be having majorly in terms of dollars. So you can see 58% is in dollars. This is of as of 2022. So here you can see approximately 59% is in dollars and only 20%, so more than 50% is in dollars, which are held by different economies, the different countries, growing economies or small economies. So the impact will be very brutal, and it is going to create a lot of havoc, because as soon as the country fails to make the payment, the imports, some countries are majorly dependent on imports for their like oil. If oil is not there, you can see the movement of trucks, movement of goods, movement of food which will get affected, and this is going to have a major impact not just on the economy as well as the growth of the country, and it will cause a chaos all across. So this is how impact of delay default in case of US repayment of its debt is going to have, not just on US government, not just on the US government, and also on the different countries, and it can lead to rise in inflation. Countries which are having more of a forex reserves in dollars, they will have to give out more, so buying becomes difficult and it is going to cost more. So at that point of time, the prices of commodities are going to go up. Raising the funds for the companies or the banks is going to be difficult, so they are not going to expand, the economy is going to slow down, there will be losses in jobs. So how you have seen the economic collapse in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, that can happen in different small countries where they are heavily dependent on dollars, as well as they have this main forex reserves in terms of dollars, they can have a major impact. Is this the situation that is going to happen, and whether US is going to default, only time will tell, but likely the answer is no. The reason is US is a global leader in world economy, and it doesn't want, it would not like to have that image taken out to be a defaulter. And that would what, if it defaults in its loan repayment, if it defaults in its bond payment, it is going to get downgraded in terms of the bond market also. The rating agencies will downgrade it, and that will not be a good thing, not for the US economies. Likely the world leader would not like to default on the loan repayment, and even if there is no consensus agreed in the US Congress, President still has the power to use Article 14, which is there in their constitution, to increase the debt ceiling. The likely scenario is he may not have to make use of this power, because one way or the other US Congress might arrive at a consensus by June first week. US Congress may arrive at a consensus before the deadline is there, because US at no cost would like to hamper its global economic image to be impacted, and that will not help US in any way, because Russia, China are already looking at alternatives. They are looking at de-dollarization in a way to come up with the other currency to make use as a forex reserve, so that it need not depend on US dollars in terms of its trade payments. So let us see how the things turn out and what is going to happen, and how the US is going to come out with the solution. Thank you for watching the video till now. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.